With copper pipe, there are two kinds of cut ends to be aware of. First, there's a straight cut end with copper pipe when you buy it. Incidentally, this is often called tube by the manufacturers and also the suppliers. Here's a B&Q label that says copper tube. And there's also the cut end that you get when you cut pipe with a pipe slice or a traditional cutter with a cutting wheel. As the wheel cuts into the pipe, it pushes the tip in, so there's a slight curve in at the tip there. Firstly, the straight cut end is one that you need if you're using a bending spring, because this is the only kind of end which will let you put the spring in. With an end cut with a pipe slice, you'll find that it won't fit, and you'll need to get a hacksaw and cut that end off to give you that straight cut again. The other thing to say about these straight cut ends is you can't use them if you're using push fit. Inside these is we're forming the water seal rubber O-ring, and if you try and push the this straight cut end into it, it's got a little edge around the tip, and that can push the O-ring aside and you'll get leaks. So what you need for push fit is one that you've cut with a pipe slice or with a cutting wheel, and that will go on nicely like that. The easiest kind of pipe cutter is a pipe slice, because it's got a spring which presses the cutting wheel onto the copper pipe, and you clip it on and turn like this, and it won't take long before you're through like so. This type has a metal body, but you can also get plastic body ones like this which are fine. There's an arrow on the side here which tells you the direction to turn the pipe slice, but when I use my pipe slice, I just clip it on, have a quick glance at the roller, and that tells you immediately whether to turn this way or that way. If the mechanism gets wet, you can get corrosion which will stop the rollers and the wheel from turning. So what I would do, if you buy a new pipe slice and it's dry inside, give it a squirt of lubricant such as WD, and that will give some protection against water for the mechanism inside. You also notice a little screw there which you can unscrew and split the pipe slice in half. That's for changing the cutting wheel. Well, I must say I can't think I've ever had to do that myself. Wheels last a long time. You can get pipe slices for pipe from 8mm up to 28mm, but you have to have one for every size of pipe that you're going to cut. If it takes you longer to cut through your pipe than you expect, especially if you're working with an older house which is older pipe work, it may be because you're trying to cut through imperial pipe which has a thicker copper wall than modern pipe that you buy these days. And if you're planning to solder onto imperial pipe, you should be aware of the special fittings you'll need. I discussed this in my soldering video. When you cut pipe with a pipe cutter, you get this slight curve in on the outside of the pipe, but this means you also have a little lip on the inside called a burr. Burrs cause turbulence as the water flows through the pipework and cause noise, described as a whooshing sound. If you have a series of these in your central heating pipework and the pipes run through the ceiling especially, you'll hear a constant noise whenever the central heating's on. There are tools for removing this burr. The traditional one looks like this, is a sort of metal point on the end of this adjustable cutter. I think they sell these without the points anymore, possibly because the thing's pretty crude. You just sort of stick it in the end of the pipe and you scrape around like this. Of course, it produces loads of copper filings which you've got to flush out, and a lot of mechanisms such as in taps these days are very delicate, and really you don't want little bits of metal floating around. You can also get type like this. Again, you've got three hardened metal edges which will scrape the inside of the pipe, take the burr off. On the other side of this is a similar thing you can do for the outside. You can also get this the pen type with a hard metal tip, and again you just scrape round. I prefer to use one of these, which is now a badge Rothenberger, but it was developed by the people who made pipe slice. What this does is flatten the burr. There's a little metal thing in the middle which you push on like that, and when you turn it around, it flattens the burr. It also cleans the outside, which is handy if you're doing soldering. There's some steel wire brushes in here. One thing to say about this burr flattener is that it won't flatten enough to let you put up a bending spring. And I don't have any information about how effective it is, but I'd rather use this. It doesn't produce the metal filings. Traditional pipe cutters like this, you tighten the pressure of the wheel with this knob here. It is adjustable. Here's this small one I've got. It says on the side 4 to 22 mil. If you buy some IKEA plumbing kits, they have even smaller plastic ones. They're fine too, they're very good. What you do is you open this, put the cutter on the pipe. You've got to tighten it, and you can tighten it quite hard really. So you can start turning like this, and when it gets looser, tighten again. So there's nothing wrong with these, except it just takes longer to cut your pipe. Sorry. Now some ratchet cutters. Instead of having to turn the cutter all the way around the pipe, you can just go backwards and forwards with the ratchet action, and the mechanism inside will send the cutting wheel around the pipe. I'm going to begin with one which is really just a pipe slice, but it can be converted into a kind of ratchet with a handle, as I'll show you now. First, this type with a swing arm that you swing around to make a complete circle, and you can turn the cutter either way, although I'm not sure if there's any particular advantage about this. I've heard that the joint is a bit weak, and it might be addressed by the all-metal version that you can get. As an accessory to this cutter, you can get a metal fitting which fits around the cutter like that, and it works on the ribs of the cutter around the outside to give you a ratchet action. So you take it off, slip it on further around, and you can work it around some more. I haven't felt any particular need for an adjustable cutter, because if, for instance, I'm working with imperial pipe and it's a bit stiffer to turn because it's slightly wider diameter, or if I'm working in an enclosed space, I'll get my adjustable grab. I'll give the pipe slice a couple of turns until it gets easier to turn, and then I just take over with my hands as usual. This is a ratchet cutter you'll see on sale. It's a traditional type in that you tighten the cutting wheel with this knob here, and you move the handle up and down to cut through. When I tried cutting some 22 mil pipe, my pipe slice cut through in 7 turns. This took 12, 13 turns, so it really takes a lot longer, and you need quite a lot of space, of course, to move the handle up and down. These cutters seem the best designed of the ratchets. There's 15 mil, 22 mil. Here's a version with a handle to give you extra leverage. I would think it's certainly worth considering in the situations where it's not so easy to get the pipe cutter all the way around the pipe in a confined space, and it's really more convenient just to rock the cutter back and forwards in front of you. You've still got to get the cutter around the back of the pipe, of course, before you can start the rocking action.